Hello everyone, welcome to Google SketchUp Tutorials. In this video we are going to learn how to minimize the lagging that you experience when working in Google SketchUp. We will visit both the installed version of Google SketchUp as well as the cloud version of SketchUp. Starting up with the installed version of SketchUp, the first thing you want to do is open up our components dialog box here. So when we expand that dialog box, what we want to do is we want to click on the home button, and that shows you all the components that are in your model. So if you can see through here, there are plenty of components in there. A lot of times you will import these components, place them, and then decide that you do not want to use them, so you just delete them. What you really want to do after that is you actually want to clear them out of your file. They will be saved in your file and they will slow your system down. So what we can do to do that, to do them all at once, to purge all your components, is we're going to go up to our tools, our window, and select our model info. And when we select model info, we want to go down and select the statistics option there. And at the bottom, we're going to select purged unused. So when we select purged unused, that may take a little bit, but that will go through our model and determine which components that we have not used, and that will reduce them out of our collection down the side here. And once that's done, we can just click on the X box in the top right corner and we are complete. If you are using the SketchUp for Schools version or the cloud version, what we want to do is we want to click and select our components option here on the side menu. We want to bring that up, and once again we can click on home, and that is going to show us all the components that are used in our model. To purge the components this way using the SketchUp for Schools, we want to go down to this little recycle bin. If you hover over that, it will say purged unused components. So we can select that, and that again will take a little bit of time, but that will go through and clear out all of your unused components. That is done, so we can close that window off. So that's the first way that we can speed up our Google SketchUp. The next options we're going to do is going to change some of our viewing options. So I'm going to go back to our installed version of SketchUp, and I'm going to close the component box here, and we're going to modify some of the viewing options here. So a couple of things we want to do is we want to go up to our view menu, and we want to ensure that shadows and fog are both not checked off. If you turn those on, you will see a check mark, and that will increase your regeneration time. So make sure the shadows and the fog are turned off. Going to switch back over to the SketchUp for Schools version, and going to see something a little bit different here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the display, and we're going to scroll through here, and we want to make sure that shadows are off. If you turn this checkbox on, that will turn the shadows on, and you will see that that takes a bit of time to regenerate that. So we want to make sure that that is unchecked. So that is currently showing the shadows. We want to make sure that is unchecked, as well as the fog. So that's our second option we can use to increase the speed on our Google SketchUp. The last thing you want to do is we want to go to our objects and hide some of the objects that we are not currently working on. Stuff that is in our display that we do not need to see while we are currently working in SketchUp. So back to our installed version. We can select any of these components using our selection tools, or just selecting individual items. We could select multiple items at once. So these trees probably generate a lot of graphics, and possibly these gardens down there. So we can select those, and if we right click on that, we can select hide. So when those objects are not visible, we're not going to we're not going to have to wait for that to regenerate every time we do a rotation or a zoom or a move. When we want to re-display those hidden objects, we have a couple options. We can go back up to View and we can select Hidden Objects. That's going to show all our objects that are hidden, kind of faint, and we can go through and we can select those, and we can right click and we can select Unhide. So that will unhide those objects. If we want to unhide them all, then we can again go back up to View or Edit, Unhide, and Unhide All, and that will unhide all the objects. And back over to SketchUp for Schools. When we select our objects here to hide, we are going to select our objects. We can select multiple objects using the selection tool or a window, and we're going to right click and select Hide. Now when we want to bring those back up, we're going to click on our eyeglasses down here to bring up the display menu, and we have an option here to unhide all, unhide last, or selected. So we could view our hidden objects and say I just want to unhide these two. I'm going to select those two objects and waiting for that to select. I'm going to use a selected, and then that will unhide just the selected objects, and we can turn the hidden objects off, and those objects are now back to there. So hopefully using those three methods will help you speed your Google SketchUp to reduce some of that lagging. Remember, if you're working on an area, say over here, you do not need to see lots of these other components in there. They're not going to be referenced. They're not going to be relevant. So try and hide those objects that you don't need to reference in your model.